evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. What a show we got lined up tonight. Introduce the participants. Candy Ebling, welcome back to the big show.
Thanks, Scott, for having me. I know we changed night a little bit. I'm glad to be able to see the regulars are on here. We'll be back at regular time next week, but happy to be here.
Without a doubt. Joe Ellis, welcome back.
We got the A-team. We got Candy in. Now you know we're going to have a good show.
Oh, I know. Well, hey, listen, don't kid
Thanks,
yourself.
Joe.
This could be the regular lineup with Candy. I always like having her on shows. For sure. You talk about one of the most intellectual individuals on the planet, female-wise, and she can outsmart males, too. She knows a lot. And last but not least, George Eichhorn and I are the original creators of this show in the first place. So,
That's
George,
right.
welcome back.
Oh, it's good to be back, Scott, Candy, JB. Great to have our group together.
Let's give an overview of the topics real quick. We're going to talk hockey, NHL Conference Finals. We're going to talk about the Louisville Police and their behavior at the PGA Championship last weekend. Auto racing, Memorial Day. They go hand in hand. Other people might have a debate about what I think on this topic. This is exactly why it is one. So with that said, we're going to lead her off here with the NHL Conference Finals. Then talk about the last time they won a Stanley Cup. Well, let's start off with our beloved Florida Panthers. Guess what? They've never won one. Oh, my goodness. The Edmonton Oilers, 1990, but they have 5 in their pocket. The New York Rangers, 1994, they have 4 in their pocket. And, of course, the Dallas Stars, 1999, they have 1 in their pocket. So, Candy, you know what? Who do you think gets off the schneid this year?
You know, a lot of people thought the Rangers, it was going to be their year. And then, look, the Panthers went in last night and beat them 3-0 very convincingly. It wasn't, I'm happy, though, that if you think about it, all of these teams, none of them have won it in 24 years. So that's pretty cool because, that's not your dynasty teams that's always in there and always in there. So, yes, Joshua, I know it was only one game, but it does look promising. I'm going to hope for the Panthers because I always hope for the team that's never done it before. Okay,
that's a fair. All right, Joe.
I think whoever wins the Panthers against the Rangers is going to win it all. I'm glad that the Rangers took out the Canes, so we got rid of John Shear's team. We don't have to hear him anymore. But I had enough of the Rangers, even though they're the best team in the league this year. I'm an Islander fan. Get rid of the Rangers. Let's go Panthers. And we're doing, this is the South Florida Tribute show, so let's go Panthers. They're up 1-0. Let's win 3 more.
Okay. All right, George.
Well, this is really going to be interesting because, you know me, I try to search for a Detroit connection. And here we go. The Edmonton Oilers general manager, none other than Hall of Famer Kenny Holland. The Dallas Stars general manager, none other than the Ken Holland protege, Jimnill. So we got 2 guys from Detroit that are facing off in the Western Finals. The Oilers, oh my God, long overdue, like you said. And the Stars, I mean, they've been on the cusp for years and years, but like you mentioned, only won that one time in '99. That series, I'm going to pick I'm going to pick the Oilers to win that series in 6 games. Now, going over to the Florida Panthers and New York Rangers. That's an interesting series only because, again, both teams are really, really desperate for a win. We know how New Yorkers are. They want to win it all, always. And Florida, what can you say? I mean, again, they've had so many successful seasons, but they've never won. So I'm going to go with Florida to win that series in 6 games also. So it'll be a Florida over Edmonton.
Okay, there you go. Let's go to Ralph Williams. It's going to be a dogfight. I'm taking the Rangers. The Canucks and Hurricanes are out. At one point, I thought the Rangers and the Canucks would be an interesting series, but obviously Vancouver didn't keep up their end of the bargain. The Rangers are still in it. You know what? I've always thought to be objective and neutral. I'm going to stay that way. But here's the situation. Let's just put the facts out as they are, okay? Teams that generally come back after losing their first go-around in it come out hungrier the next year. I'll be the guy that gives the Detroit references this time, George Eichhorn. When the Detroit Pistons lost to the Los Angeles Lakers back in the Bad Boys era, they came back and won a pair of titles. Let me take it a step further, okay? With that said, you've also have a situation where the Red Wings lost to the New Jersey Devils and came back. A couple of Stanley Cups were attached there as well. Now, if I play the logic of how I think a lot of these go, and I talked to Jessica Blaylock yesterday at the Marlins and the Brewers game, I just threw these facts out to her, at least the Pistons one, because she's a Panthers person. So maybe, she's a good friend. She covers the team. I get it. I'm just throwing it out there. So who do I think? Well, I think the Panthers are the logical choice based on what I just said. Dallas, I would love to see a Dallas, Florida. It'd be like Dallas and Miami and all. So, but I think Florida, if they keep playing as well as they are, it's pretty hard to go against the team that resides in Sunrise. And Ralph Williams says in the West, he likes Dallas. So I'm going to go Florida and Dallas in the final. I actually saw these two teams play during the COVID-19 year. They played a lot, but Matthew Tkachuk's a pretty great player, and it's hard to go against a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky, who continues to play excellent postseason hockey. So I guess you can say it's unanimous here. All right, last week at the PGA Championship, it was not a good scene. Louisville police say charges against scottiescheffler won't be dropped. Detective bryangillis didn't have his body worn camera on, and it wasn't ready, and Scheffler ended up is facing 4 charges, second-degree assault of an officer directing traffic, which is a felony, along with 3 other charges. All right, you know what, Joe? This is a debacle in Louisville, and this is not a good look on the city of Louisville at all. I don't like any of what I see here.
You know what? It's not surprising. I mean, he was directing traffic. He did have a body camera on. It's not as if he was, arresting somebody just to arrest them. I'm sure, there are some pro athletes that think who they are. And, I don't know scottiescheffler. I know a lot of pro athletes, former and current, for what we do. And there's a small percentage that have egos that are up there. And, maybe he's in that category. But, to direct traffic and have a body cam on, I don't think that, it makes the Louisville police look bad because he didn't have his body camera on. Do I think it's a bad look for everybody involved? Yes, because obviously, right now he's the best golfer in the game. And no matter what happened, his image is tarnished. The Louisville police's image is tarnished because they didn't recognize who he was and diffuse the situation before it got there. It's part of your job when you're a police officer to know the situation. That to me is the bigger problem. Mm-hmm. And scottiescheffler's got to know better. You're a citizen. When you're not on the golf course, you're just like anybody else. So, nobody knows what happened there because there's no footage of it. But either way, everybody looks bad. And we'll never know exactly what happened because there's no recording of it. But I don't think that's a big deal because, it was a directing traffic.
Okay, let's go to the chat room. Joshua Doors spit out 4. Candy, why don't you just put them up? And George, well, now he's got 5. All right, so let's put them all up. All right.
The Louisville Police Department is an embarrassment. Not dropping charges in their press conference today was a joke. Joshua, the video of the assault was nothing at all. Scottie is a class act. And Scottie didn't even drop his name to the cops. The cop, in your opinion, is a fool. Okay. Footage came out today and it showed absolutely nothing.
Oh, that's what he thinks. Okay, Candy, you want to talk about it? What do you think?
It's not, JB, I know there's no footage from the officer himself, but there are some other security camera footage available to the police if they want to use it or if Scottie's defense team wants to use it. I got into a situation once at Wayne State University where something not as serious as this happened, but actually a guard at the parking deck grabbed onto my bumper trying to stop me, and she fell, and she slipped on ice and fell. Now, this brought back memories for me, and I haven't really shared this with anybody publicly maybe, but the fact of the matter is you do have to stop. You do have to stop. If you see something like that happening, it's now I say if the person's in authority, as the parking attendant lady was a person of authority in my situation, the policeman was the position of authority for Scotty's. I think he probably just panicked more than anything. He probably felt that I don't buy the stuff that, I'm privileged and I'm number one golfer in the world. None of that crap. I believe he felt that he had the right to go forward, to go into the country club. This is real early. He showed up at 6 a.m. The accident happened sometime between 5 and 5:30, I believe, where the man was killed. So it was a tense situation. The police were uptight. Everybody was uptight. It was a crime scene. There's a lot involved in what happened here. I don't know. I think I still want things to play out. I'm not sure who's at fault, and I don't want Scotty to be jailed. But hey, I mean, this is something that's got to get straightened out. But I could see both parties being a little at fault here. But I'm just going to let it play out.
All right, well, let's play it out in chat room. Joshua Dorr says the cops got dragged by the car. Scotty stopped the. Go ahead, I'd rather read it that way. Dragged by the car. Scotty stopped the second the cop went into his window. Okay, keep it going, Candy. Okay, George, keep reading.
Yeah. He stopped as soon as he was ordered to, though.
Okay.
And then Robert, thanks, Robert. Scotty just needs to send them some Krispy Kremes, and I'm sure they will drop the charges.
Robert's always got good stuff. I like this Robert Bordell.
Yeah. And then Joshua again. Scotty did nothing wrong, and that is final. Insane if they let it go to trial.
All right, Candy, take over from that point.
So let's face it. It's he said against he said. I'm going to bring up, George, just like you said, you had brought up something. Scott, I don't know if you remember, we were at a different venue, and we were trying to maneuver around driving through traffic, and not traffic on the road, but trying to find a parking spot at a venue that had all kinds of parking around. And at one point we turned and a cop started yelling at us and then came on our hood and started pushing.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll let you know. It was Talladega.
Oh,
well, I wasn't going to say necessarily where it was.
I don't care. I don't mind saying Talladega. Him and I got into a few words over there. Keep going.
And so this is bringing this to my mind as well. And it's like, sometimes, yes, we're taught to, and we should respect authority. And obviously the police are authority. But there's also a point where they need to, how should I say? I mean, they were at Talladega, they were pushing on our hood. We thought they could do damage to our car. Right. And so they took it to a different level is what I'm saying. And so maybe this cop is taking this to a different level that he shouldn't have. Do I know for sure? Obviously not. But I can tell you that there are a lot of times when there's accidents, you have to maneuver to not get in the way, trying to get around. Obviously, Scotty was trying to get to the course so he could prep and stuff like that. And his normal course was obviously blocked due to the accident. Now, were they directing everybody? Were they directing the players? I don't know because I haven't watched that video. But do I think this cop took it too far? I think so. For him to be holding onto a window and then thinking he was getting dragged, well, I don't know. I have a hard, and then he's saying that his uniform got dirty. Okay, so you weren't dragged that far. He wasn't going that fast.
Ripped and dirty. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sometimes both parties exaggerate to better their story, probably, and to make their point look better. Hopefully the truth will come out. Whether now, as I read it, Scottiescheffler, actually one of the charges is a felony. Now, a felony goes on your record, and that is a pretty strong charge. I mean, that holds a stiff penalty. That you've got to disclose if you'd ever go for a job any place. Like, that's pretty harsh. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, and if more camera feeds come out and we see more of what actually happened.
Yeah, well, number one, I'll go back to the Talladega. The cop there overstepped his bounds, and sometimes cops think that they can't overstep their bounds because they got the badge. So, and then bouncing on the car like that, luckily nothing did get damaged, or I would have sued Talladega anyways, but never got to that point. Secondly, Scheffler called it a chaotic misunderstanding. Well, that's putting it lightly, but to me, the reality is I don't think this is a bad look, but it's going to get washed pretty quick. It really will once the attorneys get involved. So Scottie Scheffler claims he used a jail cell to go out there and exercise, stretch, and I guess he got a ride by the country club owner to get there. So, yeah, I don't think in the end nothing's going to come of this. I really don't. I still think it's a bad look, though, on Louisville, knowing that this incident is there, because the PGA will wonder, do I really want to come back here again in light of the bad publicity you ended up getting? That sometimes when you have a bad look, you begin to think, do you want to go back here again in light of all that? So that's the one thing most people don't understand. Let's go back to the chat room. I want to continue on with what I have to say, though. All right, we know about the Krispy Kreme donuts. So I could use a few of those now, but I'd hate to see what my meter would run. Scottie did nothing wrong and had his final. All right, tell me how you really feel and say if they let it go to trial. Scottie was such danger to society. Why would they let him go out so quickly? Well, Josh, there's a lot of reasons. We don't have enough show to get into that. It just shows that the cops threw at Scottie, an elite number one golfer. Imagine if it was a regular Joe. Cops on an ego. Yeah, I might see a little truth to that. Maybe sometime in a holding cell is the secret. He shot 5 under right away. After I believe, I don't know, but all right. He didn't have a bad round, so you can't say cops need to be, all right, you're going quick there. So I'll let you just watch through. All right, go ahead. Such a reach. All right, well, so with that said, I'll continue on. The number one player in jail, not a good look. Community, golf, no nothing. Chaotic misunderstanding. The guy got dragged. Don't put your hand through a stupid window, pal. What do you expect is going to happen? If you get caught, and I don't know. I look at that two different ways. If you know something like that could happen, just don't put your hand through a window where you could get dragged.
But Scott, listen, it goes two ways. If, what Joshua was saying and the cop wasn't dragged, he needs to be prosecuted,
Right.
because that, that's wrong on so many levels. And if the video comes out that he was dragged, then, it's the other way. It's one or the other. And if there's video footage that can prove what happened, whoever's telling the truth, the opposite party deserves the full extent of the law, because, there's no excuse for it. If you're a cop and you put anybody in a situation where you say they did something and they didn't do it, you're taking a chance of ruining their life and career.
Right,
so that's definitely not cool. And if it's the opposite and he did drag him, that's obviously against the law. So it's one way or the other. There's no in between.
I agree. But you just said one word, which I think is a key word, Joe. You know what that is? If.
What?
If. So, the one thing I don't like about today's modern media is this, okay? Remember, wasn't it the Duke lacrosse team that got dragged through the woods there with all this premature stuff? Haven't we ever learned that innocent till proven guilty until due process is done? Part of public. That Duke thing was a disaster. And a lot of people go ahead.
The one thing I would say, though, is I do believe the cop was suspended or reprimanded because he was supposed to have the camera on, and he didn't. That's part of his job. I'm just saying that's part of his job. If part of his job is to have the camera on, he should have had the camera on.
Well, I agree. I mean, they did talk to him like any manager would and say, you made a mistake, you shouldn't do it again. Okay, that's what they did to him. Okay, Scheffler, well, his attorneys will get him out of it all day long anyways. I know they will. I mean, come on, O.J. Simpson got away scot-free, right, when you have great attorneys. So, and we like to bring up O.J. once in a while. So if O.J. can get away with those killings, I mean, it's not like Scheffler killed a person before. He was just trying to get to work. That's what he was trying to do, and went ahead and decided to take his way instead of the other way. That's all I'm saying. But again, Joe, I reiterate the word if, and I go back to the Duke situation where, now if for some reason or another, the video shows that he did that, well, you have a different argument altogether. You really do, because now with visual, we can all see it, and it's pretty hard to argue against video any more than what we saw many years ago with Ray Rice. Okay, his career ended when he obviously had that incident with his girlfriend in that elevator. How are you going to get back in the league when they all saw it and it's all over the place? So when you have video in this day and age, which can come from an iPhone 5, 15 or whatever, you can't argue it. That's why I just stay out of the way where nobody can bother me. But, sometimes these things come up and they can use against you these days. But no, I appreciate what you're thinking, Joe. I really do. The word if. I don't have a problem against discipline, okay, but you have to let it play out in the legal system is all I'm saying. I love this topic. It's a great debate, and we know Joshua Dorr was fueled by it when he got his wish that he got hockey and golf on the same show. Normally don't do it, but to be honest with you, it really is hard to avoid these two particular topics any more or less. And then it's hard to enjoy the next one I have to talk about. But before I do, though, Candy, we have a station break. Go ahead.
If you see up in this corner over here, there is a copy of Scott's book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning in the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. He wrote this about his 40 plus years in the media business and how it has changed over that course of 40 plus years. Get your copy today. Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Google, or Apple. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can hear us on wherever you get your podcast. Our website's www.southfloridatribune.com. You can see the writings of Scott, George, JB. You just never know on my pictures. So go check out the website. JB also writes for, obviously, he's got the tagline, Sideline Sports. Go to their website, check out their website. Go check out their YouTube channel, as well as if you see that red subscribe button down by George, that means you haven't subscribed. I don't know why you haven't yet. You need to. Monday nights are baseball. Tuesday nights are football. Wednesday nights are typically Sports Exchange. And Thursday nights are Pundit's Pundit or Fire Up. You just never know. You got to watch the channel to find out what we're going to be talking about next. If you'd like to advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. If you missed any of what I just said, it's all scrolling on the bottom. Joshua says, Candy, thank you. And Oilers up 2-0 now. Okay, Scott.
Go back to that one of Joshua didn't above the Candy. I want to go back to this really quick. Scotty didn't know he was a cop. He had a raincoat and badge, wasn't visible. Scotty said he didn't even realize just there was a traffic control. All right, well, maybe that is the case. But, Josh, I think we spent enough time on this. We'll see how it all plays out for sure. And, again, I'm not one to go out there and press a guilty charge on it right away. I believe that we have to see it through the legal system. Yep. Final topic, but that doesn't mean we won't stop if certain people have parting shots, which it looks like we're apparently on track to have. Auto racing, in my opinion, owns Memorial Day weekend. Why would I say that? It doesn't hurt that I went to a couple Indy 500s, okay? And I also take a ride along over at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, but they're the home of the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600, and they dominate the Sunday broadcasting. So, Katie, do you agree with me that auto racing owns Memorial Day weekend?
I don't know if it owns it, but yes, it's one of the big weekends that it does. I do want to say that I think it's pretty cool what NASCAR is doing this Sunday. On each of the cars in the Coca-Cola, in Sunday's Coca-Cola 600, it will feature the name of a fallen service member on the windshield. And they're also doing some other special events. They're also kicking off a new 30-second television spot that debuted that talks about, NASCAR salutes together with Coca-Cola. They're also giving a discount to people from the military. The one thing I will say is that I think sometimes Memorial Day gets forgotten what the true meaning of it is. We all think of it, oh, it's a day off. Hey, I get an extra weekend day. But there's people out there that served our country for this honor, for this day, and I think we sometimes forget that. In auto racing, maybe this is a small part of going back to recognizing what the true day and true meaning of the day is.
All right, George, we and I went to our Indy 500 together. Would you agree or disagree that auto racing owns Memorial Day weekend?
Oh, I have to agree, Scott, 100%. It's just a fantastic set of races. And for F1 fans, don't forget their premier race in Monaco is this weekend, one of the most famous stops on their circuit for F1. But the Charlotte 600 in the evening, and of course the Indy 500 during the daytime. And you got so much pomp and pageantry in both of those events. And the Indy 500, of course, is very cognizant of the fact that it's Memorial Day. They play taps. They play taps as one of the ceremonial items. In the Indiana, Back Home Again in Indiana, the song that has nothing to do with the military, but there's a lot of tradition with both those races. I like the way they're separated too. Although rain could get really in the way this Sunday. I heard the forecast is not good for Indianapolis, but let's hope and pray it passes by somehow. But these are great races. They're really great. You got a guy like Roger Penske from Detroit. He's got teams at the Indy 500 he's got to follow. And then he's got guys driving for him at NASCAR, the Sprint Cup Series in the evening at the Coca-Cola 600. I mean, Roger Team Penske has done a fantastic job, as you guys know, especially at Indy. But it's a great excitement day for anybody that likes motorsports, and I'm one of those. And like you said, Scott, we've had the privilege of covering that race together at one time, and what a great experience we both had on that. So, and I saw MIS has hosted NASCAR. I've been there for NASCAR races, but never been to Charlotte.
Right. Yeah. What do you think, Joe?
Listen, I mean, these are phenomenal races. I'm not a big car racing fan, but, you always think of Memorial Day with the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah.
And NASCAR always has a huge event the Sunday at night, which is phenomenal. It's great to see. It's a great tradition. I agree with Candy. Memorial Day, the reason is forgotten a lot and way too much. It's a shame in our society that we can't take one day to honor those that have given their life of service so that we can have everything that we have. That's way more important. But phenomenal races. And I mean, if you're going to sit and watch a race, can't pick any two better than those two to sit and watch. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think the NBA playoffs owes Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Joe. I'm glad you brought the NBA playoffs up. Can you imagine this, though? The Indiana Pacers, and George and I dealt with this a long time ago. You really, you struck forward, Joe. You really, really did. If you've ever been to Indianapolis when the Indy 500 is going on, and the Indiana Pacers are in the playoffs, we saw games at the old Market Square Arena. Indianapolis was by far and away the sports capital of the world when you got them both in the same weekend. We saw the Magic, and I think we saw the Knicks play there in separate years, or at least I think it was unbelievable. So, yeah, you're right, Joe. You never forget the NBA playoffs on the weekend, but let's face the reality. I've been to two Indy 500s, and George and I went to the US 500 when you had that big cart split where we had all the better drivers at our venue at MIS. And it was unbelievable. So for us to cover three of those races, and I had my opportunity to get my fix of Charlotte when Candy was a little nervous that I decided to take a ride around on that track with one of those open wheels. She was she was, I tend to make my Candy a little bit nervous from time to time with some of the things I go about doing. But reality, the situation is, Memorial Day owns auto racing, and I can't really doubt it. I've been a part of it.
So, Scott, just to be perfectly clear, on Memorial Day on Monday, the Celtics do play Indiana in Indiana.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you what.
It's hockey playoffs too. So right now it's hockey playoffs, it's NBA playoffs, the baseball season, and then baseball. And then auto racing. So if you can't find something to watch, if you're not into sports this weekend, you've got it all.
Well, I've always liked Jimnabors singing at home in Indiana. Florence Henderson was at the parade. If you go to the parade and the race weekend, that's unbelievable. Florence Henderson was a big part of it. Jimnabors, it's unbelievable. So, but there you go. This topic does run full circle. You have the NBA Conference Finals in Indianapolis, and the day before you have the Indy 500. So I mean, and I love the Indianapolis Motor Speedway so much. I went into the museum. I'd walk around just all day, just seeing all the different turns. It's just such an unbelievable place. If you haven't been to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway or track, you got to go. People have asked me why wouldn't you go to the Kentucky Derby? I wouldn't mind going there, but my only issue is I wait all day to go through all the glamour and the glitz for a 3-minute horse race, and that's it. So now you see it, now you don't. But I'm not saying I wouldn't go to a Kentucky Derby, but the Indianapolis 500 does last a bit longer.
It sure does. And it's just so exciting, as you said, Scott. The infield, they've got a prayer service. If it's a Sunday, you want to go and say a few prayers. They got a church service that's open. The drivers, obviously, some of them go. And then, of course, like you mentioned, Jim Nabors, God rest his soul. But what a great job he did. And Florence Henderson. And how about a salute to our friend, couple of guys, Scott, JimMckay, and remember chriseconomaki.
Yeah,
Those two guys, to me, Jim was the perfect host up in the tower. And of course, chriseconomaki got grease under his fingernails, so to speak, in the pits. What a great, when ABC started that broadcast, you knew you were in good shape with those guys behind the microphone. Salute to them too.
Well, let me ask you a question, George. Really, this is the year 2024. Nothing against JimMckay or chriseconomaki. How many people are going to know about him? Now, if you say that David Letterman, because I know he's an Indiana guy too that's been there, it's another story. But yeah, I mean, I remember chriseconomaki, and I remember when it was taped before they began making it live.
Right, right. Yeah, ABC had a show in a package. Yeah, they couldn't show it the time frame that the race was actually on. And finally they got that to be settled. But and then how about gentlemen, start your engines? And at every race now, but it used to be something special when obviously Tony Holman and those guys, his family.
Yeah, well, that's true. But David Letterman's a big Indiana guy, so
yes, and he part owner of that one team. Yeah, right, yep, I remember. Yeah,
yeah. But chriseconomaki was great. JimMckay, we all know what an iconic broadcaster the guy is for sure. So
yeah,
But again, the whole base of the topic is I've always loved auto racing around there. I have a passion for it. I've been to my fair share of racetracks, not all of them, but when I think of the racetracks that I've been to Phoenix before. And of course, I love going to Sebring, even though it's not a sanctioned oval. Daytona, I've been there. Indianapolis, MIS, been down to Martinsville. I had a little bit of fun down there. And let's see what other ones do. Have I been to Bristol? And I'm trying to think of a few other ones that stand out. But those
Charlotte? Well, you've been to Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte too. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up. So
yeah.
7, 8, 9 tracks. I'll probably go into more of them when the situation. And Talladega was fun. And when my man Russell Brandon was running the show, it was even better. Now he's got Little Miss Muffet out there, so I won't get into her name, but that's beside the point. If you want to know Little Miss Muffet, then, well, go back to my articles on southfloridatribute.com, and maybe you'll get a glimpse, but I'm not going to go into details on that. So with that said, now that we are completed the big three, all right, Candy, anything you want to talk about?
Well, I want to give kudos and good luck to the Milwaukee Admirals. They are trying to go for the Calder Cup. They are right now, they last night won Game 3 of the AHL Central Division Final. It's a best-of-5 series, and they lead the Griffins, Grand Rapids Griffins, 2-1. So good luck to them. I hope they take it. See, Joshua, I can do hockey and not just NHL. We're going to do a little AHL.
I feel like this is a backhanded shot against us, George. I really do. All right. Well, for that, I'm going to say dog check.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, George.
Well, my story is a little sad. About 6 days ago, we lost a young man named Mark Wells. Mark Wells of Team USA and the Miracle on Ice from Lake Placid in February of 1980. My greatest sport event that I've ever covered. I had the privilege to luckily win tickets through the official lottery system, if you will, for Lake Placid, where you had to pick your events you would like to see and send the money in ahead of time, not knowing what you were going to get. Well, I got 2 hockey games. One was earlier in the week, but the one that was the biggie was, of course, the USA against the Soviet Union. And obviously, without saying, that's the biggest event I've ever been to. A miracle for me and my gal, and a miracle, I said, inside Lake Placid Arena. You know, folks, that only held about 11,000 fans. It was not very big. So to be able to say you were there is quite an accomplishment. I know Joe Falls, the late Joe Falls, was there covering it for the Detroit News. But Scott, you'll remember this, the Ron Cameron show, which you were producing. This guy wanted me to give reports during the game, so I did. But folks, there's no cell phone during that time frame, 1980. I had to go out and try to find a payphone to phone these reports back to this sportscaster that Scott and I worked for one time, Ron Cameron, on ABC's WXYZ radio. So it was, I mean, yeah, I was there as a fan, but then I had to take the fan hat off and put the reporting, face on to give those reports back to the studio in Southfield, Michigan. So, but Mark Wells, God rest your soul, buddy. You had a very up and down life. A lot of, I know, injuries and operations and personal issues you dealt with, but we're proud of you being from Michigan, Mark, and the St. Clair Shores Arena is still named after you. So rest in peace, my friend.
I was actually at the station when you phoned in those reports. They're actually pretty clear from a phone, so I remember it all too well. All right, go ahead, Joe. What's on your mind?
So anyone that thinks the NBA playoffs is fixed or the NBA is fixed in any way, this week just proved why it's not. The Denver Nuggets lost in the conference semifinals, the defending champion, and the biggest market in the league, the Knicks, who are finally good again, lost to the Pacers, who no one expected that. You know, so it's really good to see unexpected outcomes, and there's no way to think something like that would be fixed because the NBA is losing a ton of money by having the Pacers and losing the Nuggets, both teams this week. So it just goes to show you anything can happen in the playoffs, and, good for both those teams.
I want to send out a special shout out to my good friend Dan Edwards. He's being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is only the second year they've had the honor for top PR people. Harvey Green, I believe, is also going in there as well. I don't know who the other ones are, but Dan is the main focus of what I want to talk about. I spent about 18, 19 minutes on the phone with Dan, and I actually mentioned him in my book, Lessons from the Microphone. You will not find a nicer person than Dan Edwards, who's more professional in the media PR than this guy. Even when I started the South Florida Tribune, I still wanted to remain in the NFL. I worked with the monitors. And Dan, I just started my own company. Will you still give me passes to cover the Jaguars? And you know what? No, Josh, I don't think he will. I think he's a little bit too low-key to come on that show. But you know what? Dan took bet on me. So, you know what? I want to see how you do on this. And he said, I trust you, Scott. You've always been there. You've always had a lot of good work. And I will let you continue to cover the Jaguars even under your new business. Well, I had an opportunity the other day. Candy was there on the call listening to it on speakerphone. And when I told Dan what we've done here, creating a good broadcasting network, as well as the writing part, Candy, how do you think he reacted based on what we've done?
He was proud of you. I mean, he said that he gave you kudos because it's not easy to do what you're doing in this market in today's day and age. So he gave you a lot of props.
Yeah, and what was so good about the whole thing too is that, Dan to me is a guy that again, he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And, it just shows you the one thing that I mentioned in my book, Lessons from the Microphone, is the value of having good relationships. And when you have great relationships, Bill Keenis is a guy I have a good relationship with in Detroit, Mike Murray, and Chip Namias. But when I told Dan you're in the book, you can take this honor to go along with the other. So I do take it as an honor. Well, I mean, you deserved it anyways, Dan, because when you treat me like you do, and then then he was giving me some ideas of what today's media PR people are like. But he bet on me, and I'm proud of him for getting in the Hall of Fame. It was nice of him to go out there and say the kind words that he did. Now I got a pretty interesting one for you, Joe. Oh, this really is. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that Josh was bringing this one up. Question for JB: do you do any shows with Will Vogel?
No, I do not.
Oh my gosh. Do you care to elaborate?
No, I do not.
You don't have to, because your voice expression probably did it for me. And we got a smile out of Ellis on it too, man. So I don't know. All right, well,
Rocket Scientist says, sorry for the late start. A tornado hit my town yesterday, and I've been cleaning up the house. Well, we're sorry that the weather took such a hard turn, and we hope that everybody's okay. Where you live.
Hope you're okay, man.
Yeah, and now Joshua Dorr, okay. And I gave him a nickname, but he was too sensitive to handle it. But Joshua Dorr, when he's ruthless, he's ruthless. All you have to do is ask Jacob Christner. But I gave Will Vogel the name Pogo Stick, and it looks like Joshua Dorr serves to keep the legend of the name Pogo Stick alive. Go figure. All right, well, hey, listen, this is a Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Manmouth. Pleased to be joined by my crew, Candy Ebling, JB Ellis, and George Eichhorn. We talk sports, we have fun, we bring up all kinds of stuff. So glad that for those of you in the chat room, thank you very much. You can also listen to the show another time. As we wrap up this show for tonight, we're going to let JB Ellis let everybody know how they can go ahead and get a hold of you, Joe.
SidelineSportsNet.com. Great website designed by Candy. See a lot of great stuff. You got all the sideline sports people, as well as Scott, George, some pictures from Candy. You got articles from myself. We have more stuff being put on there almost daily. It's crazy the amount of people that we have contributing to the website. Also, Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30 if you're in Atlanta, Wednesday morning at 7, or Sundays at noon. And you never know where else we'll be.
It was good finally having the opportunity to meet John Scheer at the NFL Draft. You and I connected earlier in the year. So you have a copy of the book. I hope you're getting a little bit out of it anyway. So try to be able to, which is good. All right. With that said, the man that wrote the foreword to my book, his name is George Eichhorn. Let everybody know they can hold you, George.
All right, Scott. It was my privilege to do that. So I write for the Motor City Tribune, which is underneath the South Florida Tribune. And at the end of those columns, Candy's pointing up there, I have a book that I published several years back called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Scott's in that book, and he's got that picture. Here's a little quiz. You're going to have to decide which picture do you think is in both books with Scott, which athlete. And the answer has been given to you many times by Scott or myself over the last several months. But anyways, all kidding aside, I enjoy writing for the publication. I enjoy 108 Stitches and the Sports Exchange and anywhere else Scott and Candy need me. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. You can also reach me at LinkedIn under my name, George Eichhorn. And then, of course, at Twitter, X, whatever it's called, Sand G Sports 99. And looking forward to more exciting days ahead with sports and working on these platforms.
And somebody got it right. Joshua Dorr, Muhammad Ali. Good job, Joshua.
There you go, Joshua.
Yeah, there you go. Joshua should get George's book. It's a lot easier to read than mine because it's all pictures. Go figure. So, yeah, those are a lot easier.
About my speed of writing. No, just kidding.
That's all right. Well, let me tell you, I'll be writing a second part later in the year. So right. I ended up filing into beef with stuff. So after Joe Ellis gets done with the first one, he's going to have more reading to do later on. It's down the line. All right, Candy, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and give us our information one more time? And just so everybody know that the Sports Exchange will return at its normal time next Wednesday night around 9 o'clock Eastern time. And the Motor City Madmouth will be on No Filter Network next week leading before the show. So go ahead, Candy, take it away.
So I'm a very, very, very busy woman. JB alluded to the Sideline Sports. They're constantly sending me good materials, good pictures, good stuff. Go check out their website. I designed their website. I designed South Florida Tribune's website. So go check our website out. You just never know what you're going to find on there. Tuesday nights, I'm on an all-girls show. So if you like listening to all girls talking sports, come over to our network, 3 Chicks in a Pod or Chicks in Salsa on our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us every Tuesday night at 7:30. But there's a red subscribe button on South Florida Tribune's YouTube channel. If you see it, that means you did not subscribe to it. Click it, like us, share us with all your friends, tell everybody about us. Monday nights, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Tuesday nights, Inside the Pigskin. Wednesday nights, you will find Sports Exchange normally at 9 o'clock or so. Thursday nights, TBD. Watch for details. You never know what show might pop up there. Go over to nofilter.net. Scott's doing an interview show, a Motor City Mad Mall show, where he interviews one-on-one with guests. Tonight was his first debut show. He talked to Mel Farr Jr. Very good show. Joshua Dora, you never know when the professor and the pupil might be. TBD, stay tuned and watch for more details. But if you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you want to read his writings for South Florida Tribune, you can go to our website. Or if you want more in-depth talking about his time in the media, how media has changed over the years, he wrote this book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. George did write the foreword on it. There's pictures in there. Go get the book, Amazon Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Apple or Google Books. Audio book will be coming out as soon as we get it done. We're working on it. I know, Josh, I know. See, that's why I beat you to the punch and said we're
Yeah, no, that audio book's going to be good. You have to remember I am illiterate. I can hardly tell, Josh. Don't sell yourself short with the stuff you're putting in here. So, yeah, Joshua Dora, and Blake Lozinski, Duncan Lozinski, a lot of these guys that come in the chat room, they're unbelievable. I enjoy the FaceTime calls all the time. These guys are, whether you know it or not, they're really a big help too, Joe, because they come up with ideas that I don't see, or they come up with ideas. And, I think what they're starting, this group is doing is they're starting to come up with even better questions in the chat room that only enhances our show. And I love what Joshua Dora says, edition 2 featuring the roast of Jacob Cruiser. You know what, Joshua? I can't say that I would rule that out. I mean, it's certainly something that'll be considered, because that was a show that certainly, we talked about the Iowa player being overweight, and it did attract a lot of attention. But I'll make that decision later in the year. I'm not going to make decisions now. But I will be doing that book, because I feel there are some updates that we'll get into later on. The NBA getting a new contract. We're not going to bring it up tonight. I want more information before I bring up fun topics. And I do want to mention this before we call it a night. There are times out there that topics could be brought up immediately, but I do tend to wait a week or so, or maybe even 2, until I get more facts out before I'm willing to jump the gun on them. So for those of you who wonder, why don't you bring this up right away? Let me get more facts. They'll ultimately get on. But I don't like to do anything just because I think it sounds good, and all of a sudden so many things change and I have to talk and write retractions. I just don't do that. I've never done it, and I never will. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. Great job by my crew, Candy, Evelyn, George Eichhorn, JB Ellis as always, and myself. Well, I'm just glad to be part of such an incredible crew and network. So with that said, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next Wednesday on the Sports Exchange. Good night, everybody.
See you next week, guys.
You bet.
Happy Memorial Day.
Yes.
Happy Memorial Day, and thank you to all the
Be
veterans.
safe, enjoy the
Thank you.
food, and thanks to the veterans.